Hi everyone, it's Charlie Webster here. Thanks so much for joining us for My Sport in Mind as I speak to sports stars about their mindset and mental health. Welcome along. Season 2 is proudly supported by sportinglife.com, the home for expert insight, passionate opinion, and in-depth analysis for the sports you love, all for free. Today, I'm super excited to welcome Chelsea's technical and performance advisor and one of the Premier League's greatest ever goalkeepers, Petr Cech, to the podcast. Welcome along, Petr.
Thank you. Hello.
I have to give a round of applause as well because I've done it to everybody, so it feels weird if I don't do it. So how have you found this whole year? Let's start there.
I think it's been a challenging year on many fronts because obviously it's a first ever experience of the pandemic I have ever since I was born. So you get to face a completely different situations in life. Sometimes you feel that you are out of control and you are really dependable on the circumstances, and as well you try to fit within the guidelines. You try to fit within the rules. You try to make sure that what you do is right, that you play your part in it, and then you hope that it's going to speed up all situation and the recovery, and then suddenly you have situations out of control which put you in a setback, and then you suddenly realize how lucky, for example, I realize how lucky I've been that for most of the time I had the privilege to go to work, and although everything is different, football is not the same, empty stadiums, different rules, different regimes, different regimes at the workplace, less people, and again limits, rules, and all sort of stuff. I'm still privileged that I can go to work, because there's many people who've been sitting for a year, they've been sitting at home. So all these things are coming along, and of course you have a family, you have kids, the school is on, then is off, and then all sort of challenges you have, not only on the obviously on keeping up with the guidelines and rules, but as well the social life is completely different. I haven't seen my parents since year and a half, and obviously the traveling bans. Then you don't want to risk, you don't want to put anybody at risk. So you don't travel, then you have your life and your commitment. So there's so many things we had to face, and pretty much everybody had their own challenges. And I think dealing with the situation like this is very individual, and actually getting the right help or right advice, or knowing what you can do to help yourself and stay fit, and sort of not to feel too much frustration, not to feel the loneliness, not to feel the disconnection from everybody. I think that's individual. Everybody copes with a different way, and I think that's been challenging for everyone. I have to say, having seen my own kids going back to school, they completely blossom because they are happy that they can see they can see the friends, and as well, I have to say, they didn't mind the online schooling. They found initially their way of doing it, but at the same time, it's much easier when you see everyone, when you are there, and then you have your rhythm sort of the life back, and especially with the after school activities where you can play football, tennis, basketball, and all the other stuff which they had enjoyed. So I think this is something probably people miss the most, I guess. If you have someone who had the social life or was part of the club, and suddenly you can't do that, you miss this joy of running and participating with on the team sport or with anybody else, and it's not easy. So I think there've been plenty of challenges, and it's been a year. So we're literally talking probably a year to date since the first lockdown happened. So I have to say, it's been an interesting year in many ways. There was not everything was negative. I have to say there's many things which happened during the year, and they were quite positive, because you suddenly realize how how well you can adapt to different situations. Sometimes you discover advantages of how things can be done with more efficiency. So not everything is bad, but I have to say, of course, it's been a challenging year for everyone.
For you then, what's been a positive? You said realizing how much you can adapt.
I think at work, or you find different ways of connecting with people, and as well, you discover ways of being effective while not having to make too many meetings and not too many traveling to places for 10 minutes meeting. And you kind of forced not to be in the comfort zone and the rhythm of the normal life you get used to, but you have to find your ways of doing things from home, to get your sort of a structure of the day better, that everything fits in without compromising anything. And as well, we spend as a family the time together we had never done before. So obviously that's something as well. You have time for different things, but I have to say, then you really see how well or how strong your family relationships are, because then you really realize that you miss not seeing other people, and how happy you are living with the people you are in the house. So I think for me this is really nice. It was really nice to see that we as a family, we had a strong bond, because we were only ourselves with no people from outside, because we had to be isolating or to be at home. Yeah. So that's for me the positive side. And as well, you figure out that if you don't go for a run, if you don't go to the gym, if you don't do something for yourself, you will feel actually worse. So for me, I'm probably fitter than I was a year ago because of the lockdown, because the amount of time I spend in the gym and running around and looking after myself, actually, I have to say it's probably another positive for me.
It's funny because everybody I spoke to in football always says about the family side of things, because you're so used to traveling all the time, and obviously you don't have your weekends either. But then it's interesting about the exercise thing, because I think I feel the same. I have to, now I have to, because it's like a real coping mechanism for me, especially when I'm at home. So in terms of exercise, because there's a lot of people I know listening to this that are using exercise as a coping mechanism. What for you does it do? And have you got kind of any advice in terms of that? Because it's interesting that you still train to a decent level then, even though you're not on the pitch.
Well, I think, thanks to the pandemic, I actually became again a player. So, with the limits of return to training at the beginning of the pandemic, the numbers of players or people who could be at the training were very limited, and then suddenly we had 2 injuries, and with the goalkeepers, and it's not like before when you call a young player over, and it was not that, because you had a very strict bubbles, and suddenly we realized you have one goalkeeper short. So I had to start training, and actually I started coming on the pitch. Mm-hmm. So if there was not a pandemic, I don't think I would have ever ended up again on the pitch, catching the ball, diving around. So this actually forced me to start training even more, because I had to get to the level where I could be training with the first team again, and to be a proper part of the training session, not just a clown standing there trying to pretend that he ever played football. So, and when there was the hard lockdown at the beginning, I was running a lot and I spent time in the gym, and it's sort of everything sort of clicked together. And then when you do everything on your own for some period of time, I think it's fine. You enjoy it because it's sort of new rhythm, relief, and release of the pressure and everything. But because it's been a long time, sometimes it feels like, oh, running again, oh, going in a gym again. Mm-hmm. So then you start facing this routine problem, because it all sort of falls into one routine. and generally people are not happy with routines. It feels like it's boring and it's always repeating and it's always the same. The day becomes the same. So actually coming back to train on the football pitch with the team, actually, it changed again, the feeling, because it's more fun, when you do it with different people. So I had an advantage in that, but I have to say that that I felt, and I always felt, that feeling fitter, you always feel happier, and you always feel stress-free, because you have this release, and that running or exercising or playing with people around it gives me joy. And ever since I was a kid, this is something I really like. And as well, when you are fitter, you are mentally fitter as well, because all this thing comes together. So I knew that if I run and if I exercise and if I keep my routine and if I just don't sit and watch TV or read news, or then when I was allowed to do all the meetings on the Zoom and computer, and you go screen, you need some time to do something which goes out of it, clear your mind, and then you go again. And I think this exercising, sort of kicked in, and I really started enjoying it. But I have to say, I understand that some people find even the routine of exercising harder. For me, I think that you need to keep the structure of the day, because it would be very easy to just sit and just do nothing for a year, and then you are not happier. You probably put on weight, then you feel worse, then you don't like your picture in the mirror. And let's be honest, once you start walking by the mirror looking other way because you don't like what you see, it's not going to make you any happier either. So I think all these little things come together, and I think the sport and the exercising in generally just helps on the general health and even mental health, because you have this relief, the happiness. You're happy, when you go for a run, you come back, you might be tired, but you feel happy that you've done something for yourself, and it was a nice time somewhere in the woods with the nice background. So I enjoyed that part of going back to exercising on the regular basis while working and doing all the other stuff. And obviously what helps as well, if you have some sort of hobbies or interests which you can do from home. Obviously now I think that's the advantage of the lockdown, that you had probably more time to do that, which if you have some interest and things like that, you can use it to your benefits. But if you don't, if you don't exercise, if you don't have an interest in anything you can do from home, then it must be a completely difficult situation to cope with when you have every day 20 hours to think about doing nothing. And I'm glad that obviously the things became back, at least are getting back to normal slowly but surely. But step by step, we can see that the rules are changing and the guidelines are not as strict, and it'll not be as strict. And I think people will recover little part of the life. And I think it will make everybody feel a little bit better.
I think one of the things you said in there as well was about routine. I think it's one of the key things in terms of trying to keep a healthy mental health at the moment. In terms of yourself, you said about, you've been back on the pitch a bit and keeping yourself fit, but then you've also got this technical role. And I've heard you say many times in interviews that you're not somebody that liked, which I don't think any active person would, or professional athlete, being on the sidelines. So how have you dealt with that adaptation of yourself, of being somebody that's, right in the thick of things, controlling things? You mentioned control in one of your earlier answers, and how important that is to feel in control. But then now you've kind of got this other outside role.
I think in that aspect, it's the self-discipline. Actually, it is very important, because there are days where you just think, well, I don't have to run. I don't play at the weekend. So if I have a day off, but then you have one day off, then you have second day off, then you might have a third day off, and then you become, then you sort of lose the rhythm, and you might become lazier and a bit more comfortable. And I think that's the danger, how quickly, your fitness can change, your feelings might change. And then, you become initially not really that happy, because I'm used to being fit. So feeling unfit is actually something I don't enjoy, because I always, train, and I always felt fit and have that feeling, that gave me a feeling of like happiness and the feeling of confidence as well, that, when you feel good about, your physical state, then, you feel happier and you feel comfortable and confident. So, suddenly when you sit in the office and you need to find a completely different rhythm of the life, where, it's not coming in, train, do your workout, do anything you want, and then you have your rest of the day to do what you need to do or what you want to do. Now in this work, obviously the things come in waves. Sometimes you have things in the morning, then it comes later in the afternoon, is more unpredictable. So sometimes you don't have time to go and exercise, but then you need to have the discipline to find the time, and when you have it, to do it. And I think that's probably the hardest part, which luckily I have this good self-discipline, even when I don't want to, I know that I want to do the right thing, and I do it. And unfortunately for me, sometimes it meant that I went for a run at 11 p.m. And, is it the best time to run? No, it's dark, it's cold, and, and then you come at midnight and you lie in the bed, and then you are tired, or you're
like wide awake from being from a run.
Still going. So before you come down and sleep, it's not ideal, but at the same time, I don't, I feel still happier to do that than if I miss the day with not doing anything. And I think I have days where I know I have to rest, when my body tells me, okay, enough, give me a break today. I don't want to do, and I need to have a break. So I do that in terms of physical activity, but I still try to keep my discipline and put the work in, even though when sometimes I feel like I don't really want to do it, but I just do it because I know fitter I feel, happier I am, and that's probably the best way to start your day, when you wake up and okay, another day, and you feel good.
Are you somebody then that doesn't like to waste time and likes to fill their day? And if so, how do you deal with patience or frustration around that? And I suppose as part of that, can you recognize when you need to rest? Is that something you've learned over time, to listen to yourself and your body?
Well, I think the biggest learning process for me in terms of listening to body was after my head injury, because that was the key for my whole recovery, was to listen to the body, and nobody could program anything for me, because I had days where I could do things for hours. There were days I could do things for 5 minutes, and then I had to go to sleep because I just couldn't function. My brain had enough. So, and it was not that the doctor could measure it. You can't measure it. It's about the feeling. So I knew exactly how my body felt like, and what I could and I couldn't do. And I was lucky that people recognized that I have this inner recognition of what I need to do. And so the doctor gave me the trust and the confidence. He had the confidence in me that I'm not going to do something which I was supposed not to do. And basically all my recovery was about, okay, I can do more, let's do more. I can't do anything, let's stop. And this was where I really paid attention to the finest details in terms of my fitness and how my body felt, and if I needed the rest, and if I needed to do something more, which obviously equipped me for the for after, when, you know, when I was fully fit and I restarted playing, then I know exactly how my body feels, and I really pay attention to that. So when I have a day where I feel, okay, this would be too much, and I don't wanna, you know, do too much, I rest. But I, at the same time, I know that sometimes I'm tired because I haven't done enough in terms of to keep the routine and any work. So, you know, there's a little bit of a difference when you feel like tired from doing too much or too little. And suddenly, you know, I recognize the difference. So sometimes, you know, I push myself to say, no, you can't do that. Let's do it because it will be better. But I'm one of those people who hates to lose a minute. And especially, as I said, you know, after the head injury, where everything happens in a split second, you suddenly realize that nothing is endless, that nothing lasts forever, and then you never know what comes the next day. So you should live, in my opinion, you should live every day as it is your last one, to enjoy, to do, and to take most out of it. So, as I say, you know, if I have 10 minutes to do something, I do it. I just don't sit about and watch out of window doing nothing. I just can't do that. Maybe it's a default. Maybe it's not right, because, you know, maybe I don't have that ability just to sit for 2 hours and do nothing and enjoy the quiet moment. I might occasionally do it, but my day is minute by minute, literally until midnight. I just don't waste any time. So it's true that I have a lot of interests, and to fit all this in one day, it really requires to have the self-discipline and really do things where, you know, when you have a spare half an hour, I do my drumming practice, for example, because I know, okay, I can't fit it any other moment. Okay, I have 20 minutes, I do it. So I try to do everything I can, and not wasting time, and this is what sort of keeps me happy and my energy up, and I feel like I'm living my life rather than sitting my life. And this is or wasting time. It's something I just can't. You know, I'm literally every minute I move, I do something, just because this is the way I am. But it's right or wrong, I don't know. But it's definitely right for me. So something like this, it's actually not it's helpful sometimes, where, you know, because the self-discipline kind of pushes you to do things regardless how you feel. But sometimes, you know, when you are restricted in what you can do, you sort of feel like you're missing on something, constantly have that feeling of, oh, I should, maybe not, I don't know. But I have to say, after a couple of months in my new role, I found my rhythm, and you know, suddenly you get used to the work, used to the routine, used to the days, and suddenly, you know, I found myself in here, and I can work my time around it, and I'm happy with that. So, you know, it's much easier when you regain a bit of a control over what's happening, as we talked about, and because having the uncertainty or not feeling not in control, it probably gives you the most anxiety or stress, because you constantly sit. And I think this was the issue probably with the pandemic for everyone, that we have zero control.
Yeah,
there is a complete uncertainty about what lives will be after, what is now in present. Will I still have a job? Will we still play next game? You know, it's so many different things. Will I be able to travel next year to even see the family, which I hadn't seen for a year and a half? I think every human being had the same issue.
Yeah.
And to find the coping manual for that, it's unfortunately is not one thing fits all, because everybody is individual. So I think the different personalities needs a different approach and deal with things different way. I'm lucky that through my football career, I faced so many situations which prepares you for that, because the football is a very random game. where things can change every minute. You change the manager suddenly from playing you out, and there are so many different things you can't control either. But I learned how to ignore that, and to my advantage is that I don't pay attention to things I cannot control, and I have no power to influence. So I just accept it and go with it, but don't really spend time with it, which is probably the best skill for the pandemic, is to don't deal with if next week the prime minister says it's all over. No, just go and do a day by day. And when it's finished, it's finished. I try to do the most of every situation. And then, of course, I will be happy when things come back to normal. But at the same time, I don't get too stressed about if it lasts another 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month, which kind of relieved a bit of the pressure and anxiety over me. And as I said at the beginning, I recognize as well that we in football, we were privileged and lucky to have the game going on. That, you go to work, you prepare, and everybody will tell you, yes, it's sad to play football without fans, empty stadiums, different rules, different emotion, but you can still do it. And it still brings this emotion and happiness to millions of people watching. Yeah. So, we were lucky. I was lucky that I go to my office. I get to see very limited number of people, but still is a number of people. Is not 3, 4, or 5. It's more. So, yeah, I recognize that it's been easier for us probably to cope with the pandemic, because the part of our life was exactly the same. But I still think that recognizing that stressing out with things you cannot control or you have zero influence over, it's not necessary. And I believe that my advantage is that I learned to do that during my career, and it helped me a lot during the pandemic.